Sorry about that. That accidentally cut off. But as I was saying, in a one-game situation, the Memphis Grizzlies could do it. Anything could happen in a one-game situation with any team of any kind. I don't want people to think that I'm so blind as to say, oh, well, just because they suck, they can't win a one-game situation. You mess around and have Wells go for 7 threes and all of a sudden you won the game. You know, anything could happen. But just in general, do I expect that they're going to have success against some of these other teams that I feel are more likely, more talented than them? The answer is, of course not. That's in and of itself would tell you that I don't expect them to win a one-game situation against teams that are more talented than them. And most of the teams in the playoff hunt in the Western Conference, in my opinion, are more talented than Memphis Grizzlies right now. They just are. Jaren Jackson is nice. Wells, Bane can have a big game here and there. You know, these are capable players. But do I like them more than the ceiling of most of the teams in this Western Conference? No. Not most of the teams. No. And so that's my point of view on the Memphis Grizzlies. I just think they've taken some real steps backwards, and maybe it was necessary, but I don't know if it won't hurt them bad right now. So that's my take on them. Who else? Houston Rockets are a really interesting team, even though they kind of got the number 2 seed all but locked up right now. I think they're very interesting because of what they can do potentially on both sides of the floor. But my concern with them is the immaturity of some of the players. Natural, because they're young. Nothing abnormal, but I just think in a 7-game series, if they run into a team that has the right amount of veterans and the right amount of matchups, they're probably going to get outclassed by that experience. You know, these guys have never been in a situation where they're being schemed against in a 7-game situation. And so that's why I'm like, I think they could grow a lot this year, but I don't think they're going to get where they want to go. I don't think so. Jalen Green, you know, his inconsistency shooting the ball, but willingness to be the man, even though they got a bunch of guys on the team that arguably just talented as him, I think it's dangerous. If he were a bit more connective as it pertains to looking for other people, not looking to just jack up 12 threes, I would feel a lot more confident that he ain't going to ruin a series for me or ruin a game in a series for me. But that's exactly how I view him. I view him as a guy who can blow a game open and seal the game tight with what happens with his shot making. Amen Thompson is going to be a stud, man. Amen Thompson is already a stud, actually. A defensive dynamo, arguably the most athletic player on the planet. And I think his greatness is going to start to show probably in the playoffs. He might be their best player. I love Alperen Sengun. A lot of people going to say it's Green. I think that he makes a strong argument. I think he makes a very strong argument for best player on the Rockets. You know, some people would say the vet Fred VanVleet. Nah, he ain't. Fred is a hell of a player, but he ain't better than none of them young studs with athleticism. No, he's a hell of a player, but I would not take him over any of those three, to be honest with you. No. But I trust him to lead the team more so than those three because of the experience in winning a championship. And his overall ceiling is pretty damn dynamic. You know, they got great coaching. I'm not going to lie, I really have been a fan of Ime Udoka. Them overachieving this season, a big part of that has to do with him. I don't know that I agree with all his decisions, but I haven't been close enough to the team to really know if I'm looking at things the right way any damn way. But I would feel so much better if he were able to get something out of Reed Sheppard this season. I would feel so much better if he were able to get something out of Cam Whitmore this season. If those guys were in regular rotation with the ceiling that they have, I'd feel a hell of a lot better about the ceiling of this team. But just the same, the experience then dwindles when you remove guys like Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green and Fred VanVleet. Suddenly you don't feel as confident those teams know how to defend some of these veteran teams. And so that experience has proven to be much more valuable than I would have given it credit in the past. But at the same time, a guy like Dylan Brooks, he's almost like Jalen Green in the sense he'll shoot you out of it just like he'll shoot you in it. But when he's hitting shots, the Rockets are impossible to defeat. When he's missing shots, the Rockets are a team that requires other people who are also inconsistent shooters to make shots. And Fred VanVleet can run cold, Jalen Green can run cold, Dylan Brooks can run cold. I think that caps off the ceiling of the Houston Rockets at the end of the day. In a 7-game series, do I expect for them against an elite defensive team to be able to hit enough shots consistently, particularly down the stretch of the game, to out-execute a team? The answer is no, I don't. I don't expect it. The Rockets are going to have to clamp on the defensive end and try to run the score up and keep leads in order to win games. If it's a tight game, I don't really know that the Rockets have enough experience or consistent shot making at this point to overcome some of what's coming at them with some of these other teams. You know, we talk about execution. This is why I like the idea of the Los Angeles Lakers, as to where that was a problem for us when we were having trouble with the Denver Nuggets. Our execution, Anthony Davis, LeBron James teams, the way we were constructed, we couldn't necessarily see ourselves hitting enough shots to out-execute teams. We could out-rebound teams at times. We can kill them in the paint. But when it came down to shot making, going back and forth, who's hitting shots, who's missing shots, who's hitting shots, could we really out-execute some of these teams that were out there with that team? The answer was no. Anthony Davis wasn't a great enough shot maker. LeBron James was a little more inconsistent than we needed him to be with what was surrounding him. And some of those other players, D'Lo, Russell, and those guys, they weren't great shot makers. Austin at the time hadn't developed into the shot maker he's become. Now that Austin's a bit more reliable to be consistent hitting shots, although I do worry about the regression coming because he does tend to be a chucker. Just as soon as maybe 6 months ago we complained about that. But if he's going to continue to hit shots at the clip that he's hitting them, now you insert Luka Doncic into the situation. Now you insert LeBron James' ability to hit shots to the situation. Suddenly we become a great shot-making team. Dorian Finney-Smith, significantly more consistent than some of the role players on the team in last year and the years prior. So our ability to execute against a Denver, execute against a Golden State, out-execute OKC, out-execute Houston, suddenly I have significantly more confidence in the way this team is currently constructed surrounding the 3 guys that we have right now than the way that I felt when D'Lo and Taurean Prince, although Taurean was excellent at that, don't get me wrong. But just that team, I didn't trust him to hit shots, man. AD, if his push shot wasn't falling, that's a turnover, basically. It's going the other way. How many times he tried to connect on that thing and it didn't fall? That type of stuff. Our transition defense would be significantly hampered by him at times. And if you didn't get him the ball with a concerted effort to feed him the ball, he wasn't going to perform offensively enough to keep up scoring the ball. Now you put more pressure on Austin to be a big-time scorer. You put more pressure on LeBron James to go for 35 points so that you can win basketball games to overcome him when he wants to go for 18. It was a problem. We don't have that problem anymore because Luka the Don is going to outscore everybody. You know what I mean? You can count on Luka even on a cold night to go for at least 25 points. And on a regular night, 35 points. He's hitting shots. And down the stretch of the basketball game, he's hitting shots. He's drawing defense away from Bron and Austin and Dorian and all these shot makers. Now Rui's efficiency is more potent because of that space. Gabe Vincent's efficiency is more potent because of that space. You got defense having to react to him in ways that they never had to react to Anthony Davis. You know, maybe Anthony Davis having a good night, he feel like going for 60 or 59 points or whatever. Then all of a sudden you definitely won that game. And Anthony Davis was centerpiece around rebounding, shot blocking, and all different other types of stuff. He affected the game differently. But this is a shot-making league. And the shot makers surrounding Anthony Davis were not consistent enough the way we were constructed to really present a team that could really out-execute a team with great shot makers like Denver. Now, when you look at what we are right now, you can see us out-executing a team like Denver, especially since they've made some decisions that took away some of that shot making. So it's like this is just a better team to fit the role, the field that we have in front of us. This Laker team, I feel more confident, is constructed in a way that fits to today's style of play a lot better than the team that we were before making the trade. So a lot of people look at the OKC Thunder, for example, and say, yo, the OKC Thunder been dominating the Western Conference. Yeah, but they dominated the Western Conference where this team didn't exist. team didn't exist. They never had to run into this. They didn't run into the Anthony Davis Laker team very much. They've only played us 3 times this year, and we're seeing them twice right now. So what does that tell you? We've only seen them once. So all in their domination and all their domination, they didn't have to run into the Lakers as currently constructed. Now we'll see how we look against them tomorrow. But if we dominate them tomorrow, which I'm not necessarily betting on, but like we just dominated them in the last one. If we win tomorrow, there becomes a conversation where you wonder, is that not the way to overcome the OKC Thunder, is to have what the Lakers have and push against the Thunder in that way? Does Oklahoma not have 4 extra losses on their roster, on their record, if not for the presence of not having to see the Lakers as much this year as currently constructed? Same thing with the Rockets. We just saw the Rockets very recently. We see the Rockets again. If I'm not mistaken, we've only seen the Rockets 3 times this year. So, like, do they dominate the Western Conference if they don't see the Lakers 4 times this year? Golden State had to see the Lakers. Minnesota's had to see the Lakers. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if some of these teams at the top, I don't know if they're at the top, if they would have had to face us 4 times the way that we're currently constructed. I don't know if they'd be up there. And so that's just my point of view. Maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way. But that's what I see there. I think this is a dangerous team. We have some flaws, especially at our center position. Our role players, I think they're a little above average, but they're not great. So they need to play above themselves most nights for us to be really dominant, for which they've proven they can do in big games over the last couple of weeks. So that's encouraging. Against the Houston Rockets and against the OKC Thunder, I could argue our role players played their best ball. It's exactly when you want to see that. So I feel good about that. And we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But, you know, there are teams out there that I think are overall more talented. But in the playoffs, where people like to shrink their bench, do you see a team in the Western Conference that can effectively guard the size and shot making and playmaking prowess of LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves? And the answer is, I don't see one. I really don't see one. I don't see a team. Now, the Golden State Warriors concerned me because of how they played against us, but I also thought that our role players played significantly poor in that game, and I don't know that you can count on that if you're Golden State. Luka Doncic didn't necessarily play his greatest ball against them. I don't know if you can count on that if you're Golden State. So, what are you looking at when you consider the ability for Golden State to outshoot the Lakers? Obviously, Steph Curry's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. Some of them other shooters, Podziemski, can he keep shooting like that? He had 8 threes against the Lakers in this last game. Can he do that again? He's going to have to. You see what I'm saying? He's going to have to. So, I like the Lakers this year. Jimmy Butler's kind of turned into a role player, if I'm being honest with people. I don't know if that's going to sustain, because we know how he heightens his play in an all-star. I mean, in playoffs, he heightens his play. So playoff Jimmy's a real thing, proven time and time again. But is he not older at this point? You know, some of these big games that we've been talking about, he's been going for like 13.6 boards. If that's what he's going to do in the playoffs, he's not going to be much of a factor. How much of that has to do with his age? How much of that has to do with him only being with the team for a couple months? How much of that have to do with just the role that they have him in? And will they unleash him, so to speak? They're probably going to need to. And so for me, I like Golden State because they've been doing a lot of winning since they made that trade. What they've done has been about as impressive as anybody in the NBA when you consider that they were outside of the playoffs looking in and now are in a position to potentially capture a top 5 or 6 spot. That is rather impressive, especially with the fact that this is the Western Conference and they haven't really had the easiest schedule in the world. So I think that they're pretty impressive. But there are certain things that I wouldn't count on if I'm them when it comes to beating up on some of these consistently dangerous Western Conference contenders. I wouldn't count on some of the stuff. And maybe they've been able to enjoy it in the last couple of weeks. So I would say it's wide open. The Western Conference is definitely wide open. OKC, I got a strange feeling that they are a regular season team this year. I got a strange feeling about that. They are a regular season team this year. They've been killing the regular season, but when they go up again, and we talked about this at the end of yesterday's game, when they go up against teams that play at a certain level, they have been beaten. All of the teams that you have to beat in order to win the championship in the Western Conference, they've lost to. All the real ones, they've lost to. So at that point, you look around and say, okay, are they really as good when they have to keep playing teams like that over and over again? If they get a path where they have to see, say, the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Houston Rockets, can you see them winning 4 out of 7 against those teams based on the evidence of what we've seen them playing against those teams? And the answer is, I have serious doubts. I have very serious doubts. When teams play at a certain level, OKC tends to fold. And so that's what I'm here to tell y'all. I don't know that they're a fake contender. I don't say that. You don't fake your way into 57 wins or whatever, 64 wins, whatever they got. You don't fake your way into that. You have to dominate people to do that. But when they lost, what beat them? It was teams playing at a high enough level with a high enough amount of talent. Teams with a lot being focused against them. They don't do well with that. Well, what are you going to run into in the playoffs? That repeatedly. I think the evidence shows me that they could potentially be a team that's out of here. Out of here. I don't know when. I ain't going to say a first round, second round. I don't know. It depends on matchups, but they could get up out of here. So I don't know. They're going to have to prove that that's not the case. But I'm telling you, the evidence shows me that it may be. Just may be. So, yeah, man. With that being said, as a Laker fan, I got all the confidence in the world. Because none of these contenders scare me, man. They don't scare me. Because I think at the end of the day, I don't know how they're going to guard what we had. I can't tell you how they're going to guard Luka Doncic and LeBron James. 2 6'9", 6'10" guy, whatever, 6'8", 250 guys that are all world scorers and playmakers and rebounders. How the hell do you stop that if you're anybody in the Western Conference right now? The answer is, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if the answer is you don't. I don't know. But as a Laker fan, I feel confident about my team more so than I feel about any of these other teams in the Western Conference right now. Because I know we can overachieve defensively. That's what people need to understand. We can really overachieve defensively. We've already proven that. We can overachieve defensively. We can step into our best and lock teams up with what people think is a team that can't defend. We've already proven we can defend when we're healthy. In fact, we can excel on that defensive end. So if our offense is going to get it together and we tap into any of that we tapped into maybe 2 weeks after the Luka trade, 3 weeks after the Luka trade, before we started getting hurt, teams are going to have to deal with us on both sides of the floor in ways that they're probably not going to be able to. And you're talking about the experience and the overall ceiling of a focused LeBron James and Luka Doncic when they put their mind together. I've never seen that. That type of talent don't come together. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about guys who raise their level significantly come playoff time, who are used to being deep into the playoffs, leading the team as the best player. Now you got them putting their heads together, both getting focused at the same time. This is why you saw what you saw yesterday against OKC. Because that type of stuff, nobody's had to deal with that. So for me, I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be able to overachieve, gel quicker, get their most out of their role players. The coach they're going to get the most out of their rookie coach, who's also going to get the most out of him because he's smart. And so it's going to be very, very curious to see what the Lakers are able to do if they can stay healthy and if their role players can specifically hit shots. Because if the role players are Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, And who else? Whoever we decide to use. Likely be Jordan Goodwin, Dalton Knecht. If those guys can hit shots, then you're counting on Austin Reeves, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic raising their level in the playoffs in order for you to win. They're going to do that. They're going to do that. So, good luck. Video 44, thank y'all for watching. I'm out.